Hey there, friendo. Alright, here we are, 6:05. 5 games tonight. Starting to get exciting. Starting to get a little better. A little more sauce in the kitchen. No more of this dry rub. We're going to get in there and do some real damage tonight. Yesterday was very disappointing, and I will give myself 2 minutes to speak to a couple things about question. Rather than complaining about last night, though, I do want to make a good observation. I had someone tweet me earlier today, and I made a mental note to set aside his name for crediting his tweet and attributing it correctly, and then promptly forgot to do so. But someone sent me a very courteous and I got a lot of criticism last night. At least 30% of it was very constructive, and the guy said to me, hey, I wanted to let you know I really appreciate your work, but I think you would be well served to spend more time looking at the prices and breaking down the salaries and picking out good plays than just doing your projections. And he's absolutely right, and that was actually my plan yesterday and today. Yesterday I gave myself 3 hours leading up to lock and didn't get there. Literally got projections done 2 minutes before lock. Today I gave myself 4 hours, and that gave me about a half hour before lock, so I did have time to go through all the prices. And I bring this up as an example because my process and your process should be largely the same. I want to be as efficient as I can, accruing, and in my case, disseminating as much information as possible in the time I have leading up to lock. So I did want to say to each of you, this is a great example where if you have an hour before you play, well, maybe you tune in, watch the show, do 2 other things. If you have 90 minutes, you do something different. If you have 2 hours, you do something different. And that's just one example of, in a really, really competitive environment where it's much harder to make a profit than it was, say, 2 or certainly 4 years ago, process ends up being really important. I think the post-lock Periscope I did last night is good watching if you didn't happen to see it last night and are interested a little more in the process. Yesterday went very badly. I had like 9 different people tell me that at 10 o'clock they were making thousands of dollars, and by the end of the night they lost money. I was completely off the Phoenix starters. I spent time last night and again today following up and saying, hey, what happened? A verified reporter said Phoenix starters are only going to play 15 minutes, and I went back and said, were you mistaken, or was it a translation issue? And she said no, several people heard it and reported it. The coach then dictated during the game that he wanted to see how well these kids could close out a game, which is frustrating as hell. But I went back over basically in the review periscopes I do every night when the last game ends, which tends to be about midnight Eastern. I go through all the plays and look at all the stuff and figure out what we got right, what we got wrong, what we got unlucky on, and things I screwed up. So, I don't think I screwed up on Phoenix. I think 95% of the time that the coach says they're going to play 15 minutes, the starters are going to play less than 20 minutes. And the only 2 really good guys from that game being Jackson and DeAndre Ayton. If they had played 18 minutes apiece at the same ratio of getting, Ayton would have had 26 fantasy points, and Jackson would have had 20, and they both would have been legit bad. So it's just another example of don't be too process-oriented. You can't be too be more process-oriented. Don't be as results-oriented. I think 98% of the time, the 20% of the people who played Ayton and the 25% who played Jackson are paying your rake. And I think of those people, 90% of them did not know that news. And made what to me seems like an error. I have had several people say, no, I did it on purpose. I didn't believe the coach. That's just a big tip of the cap from me. I don't know quite how you get there, especially with the coach coaching his first game in the history of the NBA, but bravo. But either way, again, always try to be more concerned about playing well than necessarily winning. If you do the former, the latter will certainly come around. Again, I have taken quite a long look at today's games. 5 games is about as long as is about as big of a slate as I'm gonna spend in only an hour. If we get up to like 7-8 games, there's a 10 and an 11. I think as we get towards the end of this thing, we're gonna bang this out to 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours if I can get the time on the channel, because there will be lots to talk about. But follow up with tweets. But my point is, like that guy who sent me at the beginning, you should look at the pricing more. I think that's an important, but it is absolutely right, and that was my plan. But I want all the feedback I can get. So by all means, more of this, less of this. I've been speaking with guys in the premium chat all day about ways to do the projections a little better, and those are up now. So without further ado, let us get into this voodoo that we do. So well, 5 games today. The Heat having their second preseason game going into Charlotte. They have 6 preseason games. All 6 of them are against actual NBA opponents. There is no Perth, no Melbourne, no people from down under, where I still don't know what happens when you flush the toilet. Ellington is out again. Adebayo is out again. Waiters is out again. Nectat is out again. My notes say J. Rich is questionable, but he's out again. So we're going to be looking at basically a similar level of production to what we saw in their previous game. A note about the games tonight. There are 2 superlative games, and I'm talking about the games, not the teams. That would be the Houston game and the Laker-Denver game. Yeah, I'm going to go through this super fast so we can do more questions and whatever. So I'm going to literally try to spend 2 minutes on each team here. So if I don't mention your guy, it doesn't mean he's not good. Please follow up with the questions. Premium check, I'm planning I didn't get as many other questions next time. I'm going to go there first from now on. You've been warned and I apologize, but I can't get them all from all channels, and the people who are paying should get first shot there. I do apologize if that bothers anyone. So, Whiteside was obviously very good last time. I like the matchup with Zeller. He's been good against him in the past. I'd love the matchup for any amount of time he spends on the court against Hernan Gomez. I don't even know if both of those guys there, if Bismack Miyabo will even see the court again. So, for the Heat, Winslow, I still think sees appreciable time, and at this point is more of a GPP play, as there are probably some better. There's a lot of really superlative value today. We're going to get into it. And you know what, if one of you guys who spent a lot of time on this today wants to make sure I don't forget anything, we've been talking in chat all day, and there's obviously the Rozier and the Rockets and the $3,800 and $3,900 guys and the guys who are $3,500 and too cheap. If you were speaking with me about that today, or if you just want to be redundant, send me a private message in the premium Slack chat that basically says FanDuel, DK, and lists the 8 guys after that, because I have it all broken down by game, and I want to make sure I don't miss anyone in my analysis of the guys. So if anyone's so inclined to do that, you will have my thanks. Winslow, again, interesting in GPPs. Derrick Jones Jr., interesting again in GPPs. Whiteside, probably the second best center on the day for cash purposes after Clint Capella. You're going to find that the Rockets are going to rear their ugly head quite a bit today as we talk. Magruder, I have reducing. What's going on with Deion Waiters? Is jacked up and still not playing. Magruder, you can see... I have brought down to 26 minutes in the projections, but still makes a pretty compelling value play. I still get him for over 20 fantasy points. That's pretty exciting at that price. Hassan Whiteside is one of the most transient qualities in the NBA. He does not play consistently well. He has a fractured relationship with his coach. Now missing the same guys, Nectat still not being there certainly helps, and Adebayo not being there certainly helps. So whereas on a normal day, I'm like, there's about a 33% chance that Whiteside is amazing, 33% chance he's average, and 33% chance he's shit. He's probably up to like a 50% chance he's good today, and a 25% chance he at least doesn't completely screw you. But there is some chance that he just goes out there, does foul trouble, gets disinterested, doesn't like Cody Zeller's hair. I have no goddamn clue. So it could go a little bit, a little bit sideways there. He's going to be very owned. I would rather play Capella. I think it's much less likely Capella shits himself. The odds that Capella plays minutes in the teens to me are like 10 or 15%. The odds that Hassan Whiteside plays minutes in the teens is probably like 40% to me. So, that's probably enough on that one dude. I'm going to move off this team. That seems like enough for me. Your Charlotte Hornets, third game in 5 days, rather. Third of 5 total games. All NBA opponents for them as well. Split the home and home with the Celtics. Michael Kidd-Gilchrist is out. He is concussed, which does even more for Miles Bridges. Miles Bridges has an insanely low price. I'm trying to remember what it is, but it's to the hell goddamn low on both sites. If you're going to want to talk about guys who are both chalky and superlative value, he's certainly going to be one of them. He has played, I believe, 24 and 28 minutes in the 2 preseason games and absolutely smashed. He's gonna be really, really popular, but he's one of many guys who let you play James Harden, and you certainly want to play James Harden. I'll just get that out in front. If you're building lineups now, start with James Harden. James Harden led the the Raptors, if he led the Raptors in preseason minutes, that would be impressive. James Harden led the Rockets in preseason minutes each of the last 2 years. 2 years ago, he was 29.5, and last year he was 31.6. I have him conservatively projected for, and I don't mind giving this projection because this is for anyone, for a touch over 30 minutes and a touch over 50 fantasy points. He will be 77% owned was the number I threw at someone earlier today. Let those 23% of people pay the rake. Especially with so much value there. Like, when you don't have guys who we project for 23 fantasy points at a price of $3,500 or $3,800 or $4,000 or $4,100, then playing Harden is a bit of a risk. And I like trying to fade guys who are 80% owned. No. You just hope some people don't know about the Rockets, didn't read the article that was widely circulated. We talked about them all last year. Unlike Detroit and a couple other teams, and Los Angeles, who wasn't as deep, who were preseason all-stars last year, even Phoenix to a certain extent. This Rockets team sounds like it should still be legit. The coach is saying, like, look, we're going to play guys as long as we have to. We only have a few games to get. It's great. Like, he sounds like you think Thibodeau would sound, and that he's just like, look, we only have so many days, and I got to kick some asses, and we got to win, and, you know, a couple guys are different, and I just feel like we should play people till they puke. And it's like, oh, okay, that seems good. And then all the players are like, yeah, coach let us know that we should treat these like real games, and we're going to go in there and go hard and mess people up. And it's like, oh, okay. So, again, could he pull in Igor and say, yeah, I got there at the day of the arena, and, you know, I got there, and everyone just looked tired. They're not at the arena, by the way. They are in Alabama. I think they're in Mobile, Alabama, or Montgomery, Alabama. Anyhow, they're on the road at home, but, yeah. Is there a chance that, you know, Mike D'Antoni's heart grows 10 sizes that day? Sure. But I don't think it's very likely. What's the temp outside? Inside, what are you hiding? I just, when I don't wear overly baggy clothing, some of the women who watch the stream, they can get a little excited. Okay, so moving back to the game we were actually talking about. So MKG out. Batum, always interesting in a tournament format, but against the Heat with a big quantity of wing defenders, I don't really like it. Hernan Gomez, your rebounding upside gets limited when you're running into Whiteside there, in theory, quite a bit of the time. Kemba Walker works fine in GPPs, has had some big games against Dragic in the fast. We're having trouble with malapropisms today for me. Jeremy Lamb, certainly fine in tournaments. Malik Monk, certainly fine in tournaments. Frank Kaminsky could be interesting in a tournament, and Zeller is sort of a tournamenty whatever, but there's so many other good plays today, just less of an upside with Cody Zeller running into Hassan Whiteside. So at price, still very compelling. I expect to start if that hasn't been confirmed yet, which it may have been, but that looks pretty good. Quick channel check in the premium to see if anyone is screaming at me about there is news. Showdown. Can someone send me a link? There's a Showdown. Played the Showdown slate rate, and Jackson were 70% owned and got slaughtered. Feels wonderful. What's Love's minutes projections? Yeah, I have him for 18 minutes. The Cavs I'm going to be very, very cautious with. And that's a nice segue. Let's talk about the Cavs. This is the first of 4 NBA games, all real opponents for the Cavs as well. They're going to play a back-to-back with the Celtics. The Celtics, who we'll talk about in a second, have only 2 games left. This one and another one, both versus the Cavs, which is hilarious that the Celtics played 2 different teams in the preseason. They literally played the Hornets twice, and we'll play the Cavs twice, and that's it. But again, this is a pretty good Celtics team. They don't need a lot of help. The Cavs have confirmed that Hill, Osman, Hood, Love, and Tristan Thompson are going to start. This is a little amusing because Ty Lue just came out and said Tristan Thompson will start against the bigger centers, and Larry Nance Jr. will start against the smaller centers. Al Horford, not a big center, but whatever. Tristan did miss practice on Saturday with a sore knee. Pretty sure J.R. Smith is going to be out again. Preseason has been pretty shitty 2 years in a row. 2 years ago, the kids got lots of preseason time. Jordan McRae and Kay Felder were their top 2. But again, Hill's going to start today and not Sexton, so that kind of buggers that as him being the one rookie you'd think they'd throw a bucket of time at. Last year, their number 1 guy in the preseason, again, this would have been a tough trivia question. Number 1 guy in the preseason last year for the Cavs, minutes, Richard Jefferson. That key to the rotation and young guy needing time got in there. And you may be thinking, well, he must have got a lot of time. 21.8 minutes for Dickey there. 21.8. Nobody else got 20, so Alert. Last year they played 17 guys, not counting Braun, who was on the roster and did not play. The year before that, they played 19 guys. I have Kevin Love projected for 18 minutes. Now, he's certainly on this team that is going to be hurting for some scoring, and Rodney Hood, who I both think will get under 20 minutes, could score, you can get 40 out of Love and 30 out of Hood, and you're going to get them both at kind of low ownership. But I expect Love will be pretty high owned because there's so much value, and people think, oh, this Cavs team without LeBron, he's going to go crazy. Now, I haven't heard Ty Lue specifically say he's only going to play minutes in the teens. But that's what he's done with his veteran starters forever. So I will continue to be looking for news. But, yeah. I'm going to leave my Cavs analysis by saying I have Chetty. I think Chetty Osman is the minimum price, and I think he probably gets the 20 minutes. And he's starting, so I don't have a problem with Chetty Osman at absolute minimum price. I'm fine with that. Rodney Hood in tournaments, sure. Kevin Love in upside, sure, but that's it. And again, the more guys from Cleveland you're playing, the less guys you're playing in either the Lakers or Denver or Houston. So maybe a Cav if you're feeling froggy. I don't. Maybe Kevin Love plays 22 minutes and gets 43 fantasy points. That could happen, but I have him currently for 18 minutes and 30 fantasy points. I would not go crazy. Sexton isn't starting. Maybe you get 22 off the bench. I don't know what his price is offhand. I'll have to check that one. If he was towards the bottom, I can see that. I got to go faster because we're running out of time here. Celtics, third game in 5 days, split with the Hornets again. Third of only 4 preseason games. They literally play the Cavs twice to close. Kyrie is out. Horford is back. We like Terry Rozier a lot here, especially on FanDuel where he's 4.1K. That's pretty sick. Kyrie played 29 minutes last game. Now Rozier is going to take some of those minutes, and we like Rozier a lot because even in the last game, he was the first sub into the game. He came in for Tatum, was their first substitution. He played 8 minutes in the first half next to Kyrie. So I have no idea what's going to happen, but especially at the FanDuel price, that is preposterously low. So yeah, some Rozier over there. I have him currently for 28 minutes and a nearly similar amount of fantasy points. That's not something I can get away from. I do think the starters' minutes come up again. Again, they have one game after this. Now, Brad is pretty light on the starters' minutes, but I basically have all the starters around 24 minutes. That makes Hayward very possible in a tournament. Again, Rozier a little less likely to take it to the rack than, say, Kyrie. You can Tatum. You can Horford. Yeah, moving on. Next game. The Grizzlies. Talking about your Memphis Grizzlies, who will today play the role of Glass Joe to the Houston Rockets. Let's go with Bald Bulls. First of 4 games for them. Marshawn Brooks is out with an illness. Avon Robb is out with a concussion. Yuta Watanabe is out with a shoulder injury. People are saying a lot in Periscope. I don't have time to figure out what you're talking about. We'll get there at the end. Bickerstaff said everyone in the primary rotation is expected to play with no one likely to exceed 20 to 25 minutes against the Rockets. Okay. There's definitely some interesting guys we can take a look at here in tournaments. You have Mike Conley, who's in the low 20s in minutes, and on some sites is pretty cheap. You presume he's good for, a fantasy point a minute in a matchup that we kind of like. Missing Marshawn Brooks, you can look at guys like Dylan Brooks or Wayne Selden or Garrett Temple make his debut with the team. I think Kyle Anderson probably sees the minutes in the game. Yeah, I'm there is not a ton to love here. You could talk about Jaren Jackson Jr. They're pretty thin at the bigs. And when you take Avon Robb out of there, I think Jaren Jackson Jr. probably gets, minutes into the 20s. Yeah, I think Conley's probably 16, 17 minutes. I believe one site he was way too cheap, somebody told me, so I could see doing it if he was functionally 4,500 or something. But while he's healthy, I'm a Conley fan. But you'd have to really want it, and you'd have to be really cheap. I'll move on and talk about the Rockets. Yeah, so PJ Tucker isn't going to play. Nene Hilario isn't going to play. Isaiah Hartenstein, sorry, it's a great name, is questionable. That's actually a pretty nice piece of news. You have Dewey Note CP3's minutes. I have projected him for the lowest of the starters by a significant amount. I have him all the way down at 22. Now, first of all, there is a chance that he smashes in 22 minutes. There is no one on the other team who's likely to do a great job at defense outside of Conley and Gasol, both of whom are going to play half the game at most. So if Chris Paul plays 30 minutes, he can score 45 or 50 fantasy points. But obviously ended last year with an injury-prone guy. They want to see Michael Carter-Williams at a couple different positions. I think he plays the fewest minutes of the starters. So I'm least on him of the guys I expect to start this game. That being said, I like him almost more than any non-Rocket. So I just want a ton of Rockets exposure, and I would rather take Gordon and Harden and Ennis and Capella and Melo, even at a really, really cheap price. Do I like Jaren Jackson? Jaren Jackson is fine in a tournament. His minutes are going to be 16 to 25, and he's going to be an inconsistent player. He gets lots of points from blocks, lots of points from 3. 5 Rockets in cash, you probably want to be playing the maximum number of Rockets in cash. They're only going to play, they will probably play 9 guys in this game. I don't remember if I gave 9 or 10 guys minutes. Let me look. I have Harden, Paul, Carter-Williams, Eric Gordon, Ennis, Melo, Chris, Capella, Hartenstein, and Gerald Green projected. And that's 10. And if Hartenstein is injured, they're just going to condense that shit up probably, and you're just going to get more minutes for Marquise Chris. So if we get Hartenstein news in time or on late swap sites before that game specifically ends, and Hartenstein is in, I like Hartenstein a lot at the minimum price. If he is not in, Marquise Chris would get even more time, and we'd be pretty excited about that. The beeping is going crazy, so I will go to the chat. Love's projection is 21.6. Is this a mistake? No, I have him for 18 minutes. I don't think he's going to go Super Saiyan mode, and the matchup is really pretty bad. That sounds lower than what I originally projected, but I know he wasn't up to 30, so maybe that did translate incorrectly. For what it's worth, last year, Celtics played 4 preseason games against 2 teams, and in the third game, they rested their whole starting lineup. Rozier got 23 minutes, FastEddieFear. Interesting. So we're still okay with Rozier, who's the guy we like the most, so we're fine there. And like, Rozier is going to play. I still like him quite a bit at DraftKings. Okay, we've got a dying phone here. Sometimes the simplest things. Let's try plugging this in here. I'll be gentle. Oh, baby. Turned you right round, like a record player. Heat starters tonight in Charlotte: Dragic, Magruder, Winslow, Olynyk, and Whiteside. So Kelly O getting the start today. That's terribly interesting. Didn't think I'd get very interested in the Heat, but that makes a pretty compelling GPP case there for those guys there. So you'd reduce your projection for Derrick Jones Jr. a little bit. That's about there. But it makes Kelly Olynyk definitely a little bit more interesting. Although it also makes Whiteside a little bit more interesting because Kelly O is his best backup to throw in there behind him. And if he's starting next to him, that means it's a little more likely you get more time out of Whiteside. How's Whiteside with Kelly O? He is less functional, but I would still look at this as news that makes me happier about playing Hassan Whiteside, because with Kelly O starting next to him, they're going to be a little more inclined to give him more minutes because their backup options are going to be inferior to what they were. Must go faster. So yeah, I will not further expound past play a lot of fucking Rockets. We'll get into specific numbers later and sites and prices and stuff. Raptors, second of 5 games if you count their Aussie game coming on Friday. This is their last non-back-to-back game against an NBA team. They have one of the Aussie teams on Friday, and then they have a game next Wednesday and Thursday, another one of those hot preseason back-to-backs that would annoy the crap out of me if I was a coach. So this is their last game against an NBA team that isn't on a back-to-back. I can see that entering into the coaches, into Nick Nurse's specifically, calculus a little bit there when we talk about this team. So, Kawhi Leonard, I think, is perfectly compelling in tournaments. I do think his minutes come up a little bit. You see 23, 24, 25, again, for the reasons I talked about. I think you do get more time out of Ibaka, and for that reason, I think you lower your projection on a couple other guys, from Pascal, who is more popular than a lot of people are really high on Pascal Siakam. He can completely disappear. And believe it or not, if you look at last year's preseason, Pascal did the same thing in the first game of the preseason. He was minimum price and went off and got like 30 fantasy points at like 1% owned. And the second game had like 4 fantasy points. And now he's playing the Jazz, who are the best defense ever. So I'm not playing Pascal over the 17 other really good value options. I know a lot of people are high on him. Certainly could happen. I said in the last show I think he's strictly a better player than Serge Ibaka at this point. Yeah, he was, of the guys who cost like 4K and under who I would want to play, he would come in like 8th or 9th on that list. Birmingham, Alabama for the Rockets. Thank you for that clarification. So, yeah, you can certainly play Valanciunas in a tournament. But again, I think his minutes come down because I think Ibaka's minutes come up. They have plenty of games left, although this is the last whatever, but he's the bench guy. There's nothing on this team I'm super excited about. So, Lowry in tournaments, sure. Danny Green in tournaments where he's cheap, sure. Ibaka in tournaments, sure. But no one on this team I think I'm going to play in cash. Anunoby is still questionable, by the way. If Anunoby comes back, that further jacks things up quite a bit. Utah Jazz, second of 5 games. If you count, they already had one, but it was against Perth on Saturday, and was not much of a game. They won, I believe it was 130 to 70 something, and they were up like 45 to 14 after the first quarter when they actually had their starters out there. So, but yeah, they only get 3 games against NBA players. They have 2 Aussie games and 3 NBA games. Howell Neto is out. Dante Exum is out. Trey Lewis is doubtful, which basically means out. I can't imagine a scenario in which you call someone doubtful a few hours before a game and then move them into the game in the preseason. That would be really weird for me. He wasn't going to make the team. Anyway, Derek Favors is questionable. I haven't heard news there. Utah is fairly standard. In the preseason, starters getting 23 to 25 minutes generally for a couple of years. This isn't a game I'm super jacked about targeting. These are both a couple very good defensive teams. I'm surprised the over-under in this game is as high as it is. Basically, it's like 213. The 3 non-Rocket, non-Laker games are all like 212, 213, 214, 215. Those 2 games are in the 225, 260. Grayson Allen was going to be my first exception there. He's basically the minimum price. They're minus 2 point guards again, and Howell Neto and Dante Exum. They've already basically said, both the coach and Grayson Allen himself intimated that he would be playing some point guard. Where he's minimum price, yes, I think he's an excellent piece of value. Is going to accrue some defensive stats. I have him currently for 26 minutes. I have no problem with playing some Grayson Allen. Jay Crowder is an interesting play who would step into a pretty big role, but again, another guy who can disappear. Very Pascal Siakam in his game, actually. You can Gobert, which is, it's nice to play Rudy Gobert at 7% ownership, so everyone's going to play Capella and Whiteside in the same price range. Gobert can get 7 blocks, so you know, I think Gobert in tournaments makes a little bit of sense if you want to do that. And it is Joe Ingles' 31st birthday. That's whatever you feel it is. Moving on to the last game. What time is it? 6:32? Too goddamn slow. The Nugs, big Nugs. They play the Lakers again. These teams played on Sunday. And again tonight. They played once in San Diego, and they're playing tonight in Staples Center. That doesn't seem fair to Denver. But moving on, Gary Harris is out again. IT2 is out again. Yeah, we like a lot of guys in this game. One of the beat writers reported that he thought the minutes would be about the same or come down a little bit. I actually think it is a little more likely they would come up a little bit due to the way some things were going. But briefly talking on Jamal Murray is fine. He's going to play again. Again, tournament-y guy. I like Jokic as a play to sink money. There's just a point where there's such good value plays that there are guys who have a much better ratio at 6K than Jokic at 9K or 9.9K on FanDuel, but it's almost just gross points. Because if I have 12 players who cost between 3,500 and 5,000 that I think will get me 20 to 30, at a certain point it's like, well, I'll play 9.9K for Jokic, who I projected 35, as opposed to someone who costs 3,000 less, who I would project for 32. It gets weird like that. A couple people have mentioned Monty Morris. Yeah, I have Monty Morris coming down a little bit in minutes. I saw a couple of people suggest he would play the 26 again or raise up a little bit. I find that a little less likely. I do think Murray gets more time. I nominally reduced his minutes to 24. But, you know, that being said, I have him at 24 minutes. I have Malik Beasley similarly getting 24 minutes. In tournaments, I would probably play Malik Beasley. In cash, I would probably play Monty Morris. They're reasonably similar players as far as their production goes. I think I do have Monty Morris projected for like 1 more fantasy point, but I would also project him for triple the ownership based on the results of the last game, which is obviously a pretty small sample size. So Monty Morris makes a lot of sense. Again, I believe he's minimum price at point guard on FanDuel. That's pretty exciting. Juancho Hernan-Gomez makes some sense again. Trey Lyles, I want to point out again, without IT2 there, they're going to play him at the 3, the 4, and occasionally at the 5. And he shot 4 for 13, 4 for 15 in the first game, and was still very good in fantasy. He's just to the hell cheap on some sites. So, yeah, Morris probably my second favorite player catch, but Trey Lyles would be my favorite one. No problem if you want to play Jokic. No problem if you want to play, Jamal Murray. It would take a lot to make me spend up for Millsap in a situation like this. Let's go on to the last team. Talk about your Lakers. I have bumped LeBron up 1 minute in my projections. I say he gets 16 tonight. Which sounds funny, but the other day I did whole lots of 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute in the projections and got like 80% of them right. It was pretty funny. There are probably better cash sinks than LeBron, but it's a little site-specific. Like on FanDuel, there's small forwards I want to play more, and I don't want to spend 11.7 on LeBron. I haven't projected for less than, say, Jokic, who's only 9,900, but that takes my center spot. It really depends what you're doing, what games you're stacking. But I can conceive of a scenario where you play LeBron. I can conceive of a scenario where he plays into the third quarter in the Staples opener. I haven't seen any news specifically to the contrary, but that seems possible. Josh Hart is going to take over for Kentavious Caldwell-Pope in the starting lineup. We like that. I do think that's one of the few guys who I do think that will actually portend well with him for the efficiency of other guys. And playing next to Rondo is one of the few guys where, even though he's a starter, he is such a distributor where he gets an assist every 2.5 minutes that you want to play next to Rondo as much as you can. So I like Brandon Ingram, cash or tournaments at the right price. I like Rondo in tournaments. I like Josh Hart quite a bit. I like Kyle Kuzma quite a bit. Huge role off the bench. That role's even going to go up a little bit with Hart moving into the starting lineup. His minutes are going to come down a little bit because Michael Beasley is back from the boo-boo to his noggin. Yeah, so I'm going to just stop there and get into things. I'm checking the premium chat for questions, and then we will get in there. DeLon Wright homecoming game. I still like Fred VanVleet more, and I'm really not excited about that game. So if you had like somewhere around the 8th to 10th lineup, you want to play DeLon Wright, it's not completely insane. Bridges still ahead of Kelly O, right? Same price on DK. Yes, I think I would still project Bridges for more, but Kelly O is going to be lower owned. This news came out fairly late, and people aren't watching that close. Derrick Jones fouled out in 19 minutes last game. Yes, he did. It was very impressive. He's going to get less minutes anyway. How many minutes Conley projected for? I currently have him at 22. Coach said 20 to 25. I have heard people say that there is a minutes limitation, and I have heard people say there's no minutes limitation. I'm not sure, but I'm not going to take the time now to look it up simply because it's not worth taking the time. Horford in GPP is absolutely fine. He can contribute in enough ways that can absolutely work out. DK Cash, Paul and Bridges, or Whiteside and Mitchell. Paul and Bridges between those two lists there, but that's pretty close. Again, I have some concern about Paul's minutes, but he's still going to be really good in whatever minutes he plays. Like, if Paul plays his 22 minutes, I still think he gets 30 fantasy points, and the minutes could really be up there. Mitchell played 26 minutes in the first game last year. Again, this is sort of their second game, but mauling Perth doesn't really count. Rank Rockets in cash on DraftKings. Good specific question. Let's head over there right now. DraftKings. Houston. All. Rockets in cash on DraftKings. They're all so good. I don't even know. I want them all, Daddy. They're all so good. James Ennis at 4K is... I mean, Paul is probably my least favorite one, which is shocking. Maybe Melo. But I don't almost even know how to rank them relative to the other guys just because of what we think you're going to get out of the minute. So Ennis is 4K. He's not a tremendous fantasy player, but playing on the Rockets does good thing for you. There's a lot of other really good value. So I'll put Ennis last, then Paul, then Melo. I'll say Harden is the best. I'll say Harden, Capella, Gordon, in that order. Harden, Capella, Gordon, Melo, Paul, Ennis. But in cash, I'm playing 5 of those 6 guys. I don't think you can legally play 6. Good question. Moving on for Mark Fastions. What about Jamal Murray? I don't have a problem with it in tournaments. Good matchup. Rondo can certainly check out at various times. Thoughts on Donovan Mitchell? Elite tournament play. can certainly take over. You know, not having Derek Favors there will pick up the pace, in theory. Javon Carter in a GPP, killed it in preseason. I have him currently for 15 minutes. Again, I don't think Bickerstaff pushes it too much, but especially if you can go and verify the minutes limit on Conley, I do have him as the number 2 in the point guard. I think he comes in for him, and that Harrison gets most of his time at the 2, so I can go for that. Jokic and Winslow or Melo Capella on FanDuel? Melo Capella. Milli Vanilli. Can you play 5 Rockets without 1 Memphis? Yes, you absolutely can. The correlation is so much weirder here. And if you're playing 5 Rockets on DK, you get space for 3 other guys. And I really want to play, I don't know, Whiteside and Rozier and Ingram. And there's just all kinds of tremendous guys at price. So even if I had 5 Rockets, I don't think my first build I would have 1 member of Memphis, because they're just going to beat the shit out of him for 3 quarters anyway. Rondo or Gordon? Gordon. Thoughts on Lance Stevenson? Doable in a tournament. You know, certainly you would want to pull that plug before LeBron's minutes get out of control. Best 3 power forwards on FanDuel. Lyles, Love, without doubt, Lyles, Love, Marquise, Chris. It was the really interesting point here. Again, Chris is going to play regardless, but you want Hartenstein to be out. Horford minutes, I have him up to 22 at the moment here. Must plays for tonight. It depends on what site you're talking about, but probably the Rocket cap. So 4 Rockets, and they're almost all playable. Like, they're gonna... the fewest minutes I have a Rocket projected for is 18. You know, and there's really, like, Michael Carter-Williams is in play. I assume he's pretty much sitting on the minimum. He's going to be the least owned, and he is going to play. Is Donovan Mitchell starting? Yes. Is he good for a GPP? Yes. Should we Will Barton again? I think Will Barton is an elite tournament play. He is, again, an incredibly frenetic, I'm there, I'm not there guy. But he's in the starting lineup. And with the changes to that lineup without Gary Harris there, I do think there's an upside there for him. Top power forwards, I just went through some there. Caruso and GPP, no, I still think he's sitting on 8 or 10 minutes. He got 8 last time. Rank them Lakers for GPP. I will rank them Lakers for GPP for you. I'm going to look at DraftKings pricing just because you didn't instruct me otherwise, and I have to save every second I can. So I will say Josh Hart, Rondo, Ingram, Kuzma, JaVale McGee in that order. Back to the premium chat. I hear you beeping me. Rank Lakers in cash. Okay. That's a little interesting. Hart. Because you gotta have heart. Sorry, just had to do that. I'll go with Hart. It's really interesting. None of them are like super scream cash for me, but again, I just have all the goddamn Rockets in my head. So let's go Hart at their prices. Hart, Rondo, Kuzma. I think of the top 3 I'm running out there. Hart, Rondo, McGee. Something like that. Yep. Answering all the questions we can. As expected with Tucker out, the Rockets will start Melo and Ennis at the forwards. They will bring Gordon off the bench. Doesn't matter. But that's I did the projections presuming that was the case. DK, Miles, Bridges, and Melo, or Whiteside and Ennis? I want all those guys. I will take Whiteside and Ennis for slightly better ownership. Favorite DK cash power forward? My dog approves. My gut says Carmelo Anthony, but I'm going to look a little deeper for you while we have a second there. I believe neither Whiteside nor Capella are eligible. I believe they're both pure centers. They are. So, yeah, Carmelo Anthony probably. He's only 5,500, and he should be because he was shit last year. I don't know what Olynyk is on FanDuel. He's 57 here. That's not that impressive. You know, Miles Bridges is 57. much more of a fan of when he was down around 4, but that still seems like it's a pretty good bet. And you got to remember again now, Michael Carter-Williams is now out for them as well. Eric Gordon looks like ET in his FanDuel profile pick. Tough but fair. Shout out to Sam Cassell, the original alien. Kuzma over Ingram in a GPP. I have no problem with that. Kawhi in a GPP, I think is just great. Whiteside or CP3. I'm going to play Whiteside and try to cap the Rockets in another way. 6.3 and under, not a Rocket. Damn it. Capella cost 6.3. Oh, God, don't make me say Barton. Nobody screams out to me towards that cap. I would be roughly evenly inclined towards... I don't want to do Valanciunas versus Utah. I just don't want to do it, and I think he has more ownership than I'm happy with. So I don't have a problem with Barton. I don't have a problem with Hayward. I don't have a problem with Rubio, who is oddly good against Lowry. He's one of those guys. I can see Tatum. Marc Gasol is not completely insane, but I would rather Al Horford at the same price. I would probably play Rajon Rondo or Kelly Olynyk and leave money on the table. So 6.3 and under, I would probably play Rondo or Olynyk and leave $400 or $600 pending. Favorite player 4.6 or under on DK. Probably James Ennis III if you don't have him at $4,000 on the nose. But I will briefly talk about some cheapies. Marquise Chris, especially if you watch Late Swap and find out that Hartenstein is not playing. JaVale McGee is very good at 4.6, but I would still project him for under James Ennis. Chetty is interesting in a tournament, but it just doesn't rank next to these guys in terms of raw projection. Yeah, so I'm going to stop there and just get to some more questions. Trying to go as quick as we can. Mitchell and Jokic or Whiteside CP3, more raw points. Projections are posted, so more raw points questions you can answer yourself, but I'm fairly certain I have that as Mitchell and Jokic by about 3. Carmelo, Bridges, Lyles, rank please. Carmelo first. I'm going to take Lyles second and Bridges third, especially when ownership in there. Why not Bridges as your guy under 6.3K? I don't recall specifically what I said, but, Bridges has overperformed. I like Bridges, and he's still very reasonably priced, and MKG is out, but I have to say that there is some concern for me that he's just played out of his mind a little bit, and I expect him to be on the popular side. So I can't intrinsically say to you, oh, no, don't play Miles Bridges, he's not going to be good, but I can say I think he's overplayed how good he is recently, and you're going to get better ownership on a number of other guys. But you're not going to put Miles Bridges in any lineup and have me turn around and go, that was a bad play. So all of your lineups have 3 to 5K left. That is probably too much. There is probably someone there who should turn into Jokic or turn it that strikes me as wrong, but it depends what site you're on. Ennis or Hart, I'll take Hart for more points than Ennis. Ennis, the worst line you're going to get out of Ennis is 26 minutes. I mean, obviously you can get hurt in the non-2% category. The worst thing you're going to get out of him is 26 minutes and 18.5 fantasy points. I would be shocked if he didn't get there. JaMychal Green, no, I'm not going to do that. FanDuel cash point guard not named Rozier. There's one I like named Terry. I think Monty Morris and you save money, but I'm presuming you're trying to spend money. But cash, Monty Morris at 3,500 is a perfectly reasonable shot. Other cash point guards on FanDuel. Jesus Christ, I might say Marcus Smart here. And Marcus Smart and cash are not words that saying together generally makes me happy. That's really close. Chris Paul is going to be the second best one. So it's going to be Rozier, Paul, but if you're at your rocket limit, probably then still for me, Kemba, then Smart, then Dragic, then Lowry. I think is about how I would order them for cash. Really random minutes projection for Joe Ingles. I will look up the specific number I gave. I will give you the full secret here. Joe Ingles, 21 minutes. 19.9 fantasy points. So you can check and see how that goes. Hood over Eric Gordon GPP. again, I'm gun-shy after yesterday, but really concerned about Cavs minutes. I encourage you to realgm.com is the easiest site to look it up at there. Look at Cavs preseason minutes the last couple of years. And the last couple of years, they were competitive. So this year, why in the hell would they randomly jack out all the starters? So I think Eric Gordon outscores Rodney Hood 90% of the time. But that's just my take there. Gordon or Capella? I'm going to take Capella. Jokic or Whiteside? Jokic in a tournament, Whiteside in cash, which feels a little weird. But Jokic, minutes a little more questionable with Olynyk starting next to him. I actually like Whiteside for more minutes. Jokic has a banged-up finger on his shooting hand. Bridges or Eric Gordon? That's just Eric Gordon for me. Jokic or Ingram or Donovan, DK, last guy in. Between those guys in cash, I would play Ingram. In tournaments, I would probably play Donovan Mitchell. That stat line you gave for Ennis is basically his average if you use PPM. I think that's way too high, like a medium projection. I think it's a stellar matchup alongside, a couple Hall of Fame players. And I think the matchup is also superlative against a team I expect to be defensively woeful. So that's why, while it does represent his average, I think it's what I would... I think the situation is better than perhaps you were thinking. Ennis over Chetty on FanDuel. I have no issue playing Chetty and then finding another Rocket because Ennis is the least likely guy on that team to get 35. Ennis is big in the butts. I didn't know you were like that, Al. You meant debuts, but see what I did there? I pronounced it phonetically. Rozier and Lyles or Eric Gordon and Hart? That's a DK question. I'll go Rozier and Lyles. I think your ownership is a little bit better there. So if you're running like your 180s, I would do that. Mitchell or Kemba in cash? That's a good question. I will take Kemba in cash. There's a little bit better pace there. Matchup's a little bit better. 5,700 or under power forward on DraftKings. Lyles, 5,300. See, that was easy. There's too many questions. They're coming in 1,000 a minute on all screens. Thoughts? I don't have time to do a full lineup. I do wish you would forgive me for that. 8 minutes to go. Paul or Lyles or I'm just gonna look at it for you, Gaheem. I feel bad. You've been here for years. It's a DK lineup. I'm not gonna read it out. I was going to read it out. I think it's incredible. I have absolutely no issues with anyone in that lineup. Paul, Monty, or Ingram, Whiteside. Probably those are very similar. Slightly inclined towards Ingram, Whiteside. Capella and Kawhi or Jokic and Millsap on DK. I'll take Capella and Kawhi. Power forward on FanDuel week. Prioritize Lyles. And again, Chris is someone I specifically mentioned. But Lyles definitely. Chris, trying to remember. Again, you want Hartenstein out. But even if he's in, I expect Chris to get in the rotation. He's a guy who does have a big GPP upside. I'm not as big on Pascal as other people are, but he's at 4,800. Jaren Jackson would be just GPPs for me. Yeah, power forward's pretty ugly. Most lineups, I think I would be running Chris and Lyles. Chris is a guy with big upside that I think could completely screw you, but contributes in DFS in a lot of ways. And with them missing, all the guys they're missing, could be huge. Plumlee, fine, right? I don't mind Plumlee, but tournaments only for me. Can you play Kuzma and Ingram? Absolutely. You're going in on Pascal. You can't talk me into that in the matchup there, but I get where you're coming from. Favorite DK forward 4.8 or under. Already have Ellis and Lyles. Well, that's a couple good forwards at 4.8 and under. Jaren Jackson Jr. is probably going to be it for GPPs. Nope, I lied. Probably Juancho Hernangomez. And then there's Marquise Chris. These are all fine options. That's what I'm saying. There's I wish I could build 100 lineups tonight because, Lord, are there some saucy meatballs I want to put on my sandwich. People will say Pascal. That'll be one of the guys I'm on the limb against tonight. We will see how that works out. Jaren Jackson Jr. I like a lot in tournaments. Juancho or Chris in cash. I guess I'm going to take Juancho because I know he will play, and there's some weird chance that Chris doesn't see a lot of time. Gerald Green is not out of the realm of possibility in tournaments as well. We will stick there. The Chetty Osman in tournaments, again, interesting. KCP or Hart on DK. Hart for me. KCP, I think, does actually get less time off the bench as a known quantity and as a veteran. Bridges and Jokic or Kuzma, Capella, FanDuel, GPP, Fast Eddie. I'll take Kuzma and Capella. Rozier and Lyles over Eric Gordon and Hart. Even if it's the $180 67-person contest, that would leave you with just 3 Rockets. Yeah. Because the Rockets in a high entry fee, they're going to be mass. I mean, that's where you're getting your separation. Everyone is going to have 5 Rockets. Like, your ownership having 5 non-Rockets is where you can take it down if you make strong plays that have upside. And Rozier and Lyles, Rozier gets a pristine minutes against a Cavs lineup that isn't even going to start. Although George Hill, perfectly adequate defender, but isn't even going to start Sexton. With no Kyrie there, just the usage is way up. You can get, remember the playoffs, you can get 37 out of, Rozier here. So, Bridges, Jokic, or Kuzma, Capello. I think we've been through that. 10 lineups, 50% Ingram, too much. No, he's probably a relatively safe plated. I would have less than that. 50% does feel like too much for me on a slate this big. When there's this much going on, I think the way I would win if I were playing would be to really, be like, all right, I've got exposure to all the guys I know have huge upside and max the fuck out of the Rockets and cycle in my other 3 to 5 spots, depending on which site I'm playing on, and try to do it that way. So 50% Brandon Ingram does feel like too much. Again, not likely turns an ankle. He's young and wiry, but he's got a 21-minute, 17 fantasy point game in him, and he was great last time. He's also going to be fairly popular. So yes, to me, I will actually just say 50% seems too strong for me. Melo and Ingram or Paul and Monty. I'd play Melo and Ingram, probably cash and GPP. DK kind of forces you into Ingram. I think I did notice that. I toyed around with lineups for, again, I managed to get an extra half hour today to fudge around with that. Gordon for cash, absolutely. He may be the best forward on the slate regardless of price. Yeah, I do not dislike Brandon Ingram. I have 2 DK lineups that are built and not being entered in front of me, and he is in both of them. And it just has something to do with, playing the right Rockets, and that's about the price range that is left. And I liked the matchup and looked amazing next to LeBron, and, Bridges and Paul or Whiteside and Mitchell. When I split it up, you leaned Whiteside and Mitchell, but when together, you said the first one. I would definitely play Whiteside and Mitchell in a tournament over Bridges and Paul. I think the Bridges will be fairly popular. He is a rookie. There is kind of a floor game there. It could happen. Paul could get limited minutes. It's going to be very popular. So in a tournament, I'm playing Whiteside and Mitchell. Their cash would end up being very, very close. There, it's probably Paul and Bridges by a hair. Ingram or Kuzma, FanDuel, GPP. Yeah, both small forwards, oddly. It's really close for me. I do think Ingram is a solidly better play, and Beasley being back, I will take the higher ownership there and play Ingram. You can play Braun, Love, Leonard, Millsap, Ingram with 1K, and it's clearly Ingram basically. Fast Eddie Fear. No, I agree with your analysis, Ricky. I think that is very well done. Legalized. Anyone? Scrolling up and seeing if he asked something that I can't see your comment. Legalized. Kemba and Whiteside or Mitchell. Kemba/Whiteside or Mitchell DK GPP utility. So which of those 3? I would probably play Whiteside because of the matchups. So I would probably play Whiteside there. His ownership is not going to be as vast as I think people are going to because of an understandable amount of love. All right, I'm going to look at some comments in this channel for the first time. What about the rookie on the Memphis Grizzlies? You're talking about Triple J. Absolutely fine in tournaments. Whiteside or Gobert DK cash. Whiteside for cash between those 2. Exposure for Harden, I'd say at least 99%. After that, it's up to you. If you don't play Trey Lyles, I repeat, you will lose. A bit strong because there's so many good value plays today. But he is quite possibly the best at some of his prices. Donovan Mitchell, fine in tournaments. Whiteside or Capella or Hart and Eric Gordon on FanDuel, please and thank you, Fast Eddie. Sorry it took so long to answer Whiteside and Capella. Best power forward on FanDuel cash. We've been through a few times, so hopefully that got answered for everyone. Is James Harden going to play a decent amount of minutes tonight? Yes, I think he will. I projected him for 30. Again, we talked at the top of the show, but there we go. Rondo or Rozier DK GPP? I think I take Rozier, but they're both strong GPP plays. Mitchell or Murray? I'm going to take Donovan Mitchell there. Horford or Love in a GPP? I'm going to take Horford. I really am concerned that in what's functionally their first game of the preseason, you get just dick time out of Kevin Love, and I'm willing to There's so many good plays. I'm willing to risk Kevin Love going the hell off. Maybe it won't work. I mean, that's the exact same stance I took on Whiteside the first day, and it was one of the reasons the first day wasn't almost perfect. We had it almost all right, but Whiteside went the hell off, and I said, look, his minutes have been all over the place. Even with a couple guys out, I'm dubious, and he was 30% owned because they were missing basically 2 centers, and Whiteside went the hell off. So, it's the same way with Kevin Love. Again, now this is a much larger slate. I think that was a 2-gamer. Maybe that was the first 4-gamer. Either way, this is a 5-gamer. I'm more inclined to let Kevin Love be, to some degree, seriously owned and try to, make it up elsewhere. Winning time. This isn't supposed to be free. It is free. It's if it wasn't free and some of you snuck in there. Let's see. The only player I can let's see. He's got 1 lineup. Well, I will poke around and see if I can find the 70K tonight. 70K. About 10 grand or something. I hope someone takes that down. And again, I would be surprised if tonight rounds about probably about 1 a.m. Eastern, because I think it's 10:30 Eastern that they will be starting that final game. Again, I apologize if I don't get to all your questions. Preloading questions is not a bad idea. Twitter is probably the best if you're a premium member. If you're a premium member, direct message via the Slack, and I'll take a look in there and I'll try to do that and give some credence to people who load them in ahead of time, because obviously I'm getting all the ones I can. Hassan Whiteside 43%. Yeah, that's I said 38 to someone before. A couple other people are saying 50. Miles Bridges 31.5%. Again, that's really significant. Olenek got up to 17.73. That's fine. Lamb 9.6. Justice Winslow 7.9. Rodney 7. Walker 6.6. Malik Monk 6.3. Batum 5. Hernan Gomez 3. It's kind of exciting. Dragic 2. That's kind of exciting. I had him getting a Dragic 3 rather. Cody Zeller 1.46. That's kind of exciting too. So there's about what we expected in that first game. So again, I've talked a lot and done an infamous video on late swap. Make sure you use it to your fullest advantage. Don't just use it for, oh crap, one of my guys is out. Like, keep an eye on news as it comes out. If your lineup is right now, you probably don't have to make a change. But I'm a big fan of playing Hartenstein if he plays and playing Marquise Chris if he doesn't. Try to do that if you can. Missed my Periscope today. Will I be back tomorrow? Yes. One day I missed getting projections done, but I will likely do a Periscope, or more than one Periscope, as we've been doing a recap as well every day of leading up to lock every day of the preseason, so a dozen more or so. Melo ownership in a GPP. It's going to be a little bit site dependent, but I'll say 28 to 35%. Is Jokic a smart placer? Yeah, I think Jokic is a great play. There's just money to sink on him, and with everyone playing Harden, that drops the ownership down, and Jokic against the Lakers can put up, he didn't have a great game last time, and McGee does play him fairly well, so it's not a situation I am drooling over, but you can get 50 out of Jokic, and he's going to be, 13% owned or something. So, yes, I think Jokic is a very strong tournament play. Lyles or Tatum on DK. That's interesting. Again, the FanDuel price being superlative there, but I'm still probably playing Lyles, believe it or not. I think McGee is a fine play. Showdown thoughts, I haven't specifically looked at the pricing, so I'd be unable to commentary. You can't believe you're playing Melo after... Again, it's not just that... I can't express the minutes thing enough. The Rockets are missing PJ Tucker, so that's extra minutes floating around. Are missing Nene, so that's extra minutes floating around. They're going to play 9 or 10 players tonight, I almost guarantee you. So if it's 10 players, that's 24 minutes a dude on average, and you're going to have less than that count on either Chris or Hartenstein and Michael Carter-Williams and probably Gerald Green. So everyone else is going to play 27 or 28 minutes in one of the top offenses in the NBA going up against a partial strength Grizzlies team that sucks. This is one of those things where, maybe you get the Vikings versus the Bills situation. Maybe they somehow do not convert on this situation, but it is by far the best situation we've seen in the preseason this year. Any Raptors, by the way, you look like you lost weight. Good job. Thanks. I lost, over the last 2 years, I've lost about 30 4 pounds. So it's getting old. Back hurt a lot. How much Grayson is too much at 4.6K? Again, I assume this is on one of the later slates, so I haven't specifically looked, so I don't want to answer the question specifically, but I do like Grayson Allen. They're missing second and third string point guards. Both the coach and he have said he's going to play some point tonight. That increases him. He's a guy who can pick up some defensive stats in a harassing way, can make some threes. Everybody looked good against Perth or whatever the hell it was, but looked very good in that game and looked very good in Summer League. Every time he played, I was all the hell over Grayson Allen in Summer League, and the first day, 50% of people told me I was stupid, and the second day, 30% of people told me I was stupid, and by the third or fourth time he played, everyone was like, hey, we should play Grayson Allen every day, and it was really never bad. Does Grayson get fantasy points for tripping people? Sadly, no. 2-game lineup someone is sharing. I guess I don't want to read your lineup out in the other channels. It's very weird because I'm big free flow of information, communist libtard apparently, but I'm just trying to help everyone and do everything I can. But someone says something here and I'm like, oh wait, if I read your lineup out, I'm giving your lineup specifically to 300 people. You might not appreciate that. You might not give a shit. But Mitchell got lots of time last year. He did, but that could recur or not. I think Mitchell averages 24 minutes in the preseason. I'd be shocked if it wasn't 22 to 26, just knowing what Quinn Snyder has done for a number of years. But they sort of know who he is more, so I think they maybe ride him a little less. But it wouldn't surprise me if he still went crazy. Any Raptors was your question before the weight loss compliment. See, that's why you don't give compliments to that to a raving egomaniac like myself. Because immediately, when I can talk about me, obviously much more enjoyable for me than talking about the Raptors of Toronto. Haha, very funny. Any Raptors, I think you can play Pascal Siakam in a tournament. I think you can play Jonas Valanciunas in a tournament. I think you can play Delon Wright or Fred VanVleet in a tournament. I would prefer him. I think you can play Kawhi Leonard. I actually kind of like playing Kawhi Leonard because Kawhi Leonard does have stupid upside because just he's Kawhi Leonard. But the matchup is so bad. Like, this Utah team is the best defense in the NBA by this much. Any Blazers? No, I wouldn't play any Trailblazers tonight. Monty Morris is fine at the minimum price. In tournaments, again, I would rather go to Malik Beasley. They share a similar role. They are basically the same price everywhere, and Malik Beasley is going to be a third-owned Monty Morris because Monty Morris was amazing in the first game, so I would make that. Doncic will be a DFS points hog this year. Yeah. Oh my God. Deep slurping over the Jazz. That's true. I have been filleting the Jazz for some time now. Doncic, overrated as hell. I mean, he's about as highly rated as you can be. So he might be overrated because everyone is literally he's going to the Hall of Fame. But I am a believer and haven't seen anything in any of the Euro tape I've watched or, the one game he played against a Chinese team. But I think Kawhi gets on Mitchell some. I'd be shocked if he didn't. Yeah. I mean, he will get on him some. I don't know if it's going to be 7 possessions or 17, but need a shooting guard in the Denver Laker game. Josh Hart would be my favorite off the top of my head, but Malik Beasley and Monty Morris and are both perfectly reasonable plays. Will Barton is probably shooting guard eligible. He's a perfectly reasonable play, so I'm a fan of all that. So one last check on the premium chat. I hope you are less grumpy than you were earlier, because last time I sort of did a equal rotation through the chats, and that meant that half of everybody's questions didn't get answered. So this time I answered about 90% of the premium Slack questions, about 60% of the Periscope questions, and y'all on the YouTube Slack, sorry, you got because I had to open another window and close the projections to get to you, so I was a real dick to you. I will try to find a way to do that better. Rubio or no? He would not be in my first 5 lineups. I don't think he's a bad tournament play because he will be incredibly low and has had good games against the Raptors. I'd rather play Donovan Mitchell, but you could put Rubio in a tournament. That wouldn't be wrong. Eddie, Ennis and Ingram or Allen and Kuzma? I gotta take Ennis and Ingram. 60% of the freeloading socialist questions. Very good. Monty or Grayson on a DK GPP. I would definitely Grayson at that point. Like, Monty is fine, but he's not as good as he was last game. He's not as good as, say, Miles Bridges, but I would not be surprised. Like, Monty has scored single-digit fantasy points tonight. I would not be shocked. So, he's freaking minimum. Whatever Ennis's percentage tonight will tell us just how much RG has of the total volume and how much Eddie has. RG had him at like 13 points projected. Okay. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Ennis there. But 13, that's a low number. I think I had him. I will tell you exactly what I had him projected for. You're gonna love this one. 23.8. Carmelo. Oh god, all the Carmelo. I don't know, how bad is Carmelo gonna do for 5 something? Like, 1 or 2 of the Rockets are going to be bad, but you can certainly get them all. So what was the chalk stream Eddie cash line? This is what I got. Harden, Rozier, Bridges, Lyles, Capella, Ingram, Gordon, Anthony. Yep, that's pretty good. There's no one there I don't like. Like, I really like Rozier. I think Rozier gets high 20s in minutes. It takes a lot for me not to like high 20s in minutes these days. And again, their matchup is superlative as well against the Cavs team that's going to be a little bit stinky. All right, so I am done. I'm going to eat a salad that my wife put in the fridge for me 6.5 hours ago. At least I hope she put it in the fridge for me. So on that note, probably see you about 1 a.m. Good luck. Hopefully tonight goes a lot better. And, like if the Cavs play tons of minutes, that's because I screwed up my guess. But I used the best analysis I can get and the best history I can get. And so, hopefully that's right. So we'll see. I was on James Ennis, off Kevin Love, and a couple other guys, off Pascal. So we'll put those as the 3 hedge guys, and we'll start talking about them in a few hours. So have a great night, everyone. Good luck. The Periscope sheet is closed. The stream, she is done.